Anos Voldigoad and a group of other hopefuls receive letters delivered by owls, yes, owls, inviting them to enroll at the prestigious Demon King Academy. This isn't your average school, though. It's a place for the descendants of the one and only Demon King of Tyranny. On entrance exam day, Anos meets Misha Necron, a shy student who seems equally nervous and out of place. Their initial bonding moment is interrupted by Zepsindu, a haughty demon from a renowned family who wastes no time mocking them. Unfazed, Anos shrugs off Zep's insults, causing the latter to lose his temper and summon his flames. In a legendary move, Anos extinguishes Zep's fire with just a puff, as if it were a mere birthday candle, and brings him to his knees using nothing but his sheer presence. During the practical exam, Anos and Zeps face off. Zeps tries showing off his family heirloom sword, Zephrid, only for Anos to casually dodge every strike and snuff out the blade's flames again. To make things more interesting, Anos offers to stand still and take Zeps' attacks, without moving an inch. In a jaw-dropping display, he uses his heartbeat to make Zeps bleed. Despite the punishment, Zeps stubbornly refuses to surrender, even demanding that Anos use compulsion magic to force him to yield. Instead, Anos takes the challenge to the next level and repeatedly obliterates Zeps with a single finger flick, reviving him each time like it's no big deal, thanks to his mastery of Ingel's 3-second rule. It doesn't take long before Zeps breaks down and surrenders, realizing he's utterly outclassed. Next up is the magical power assessment. Misha scores a solid 100,246 points, but Anos, being Anos, goes a bit overboard and blows up the testing crystal, scoring a glorious 0. Then comes the written test on the Demon King of Tyranny. Afterward, Misha waits for Anos, who decides to invite her over to his house. He uses a long-lost teleportation spell, Gatum, casually impressing Misha once again. Arriving at his house, things get hilariously awkward when Anos' doting parents jump to the conclusion that Misha is their future daughter-in-law. Anos waves it off for now, but they end up having a celebratory dinner of his favorite dish, mushroom gratin. Later, as they stroll outside, a magic arena suddenly forms around them. Leorg Indu, Zep's older brother and a royal, appears. In a shocking turn of events, Leorg kills his own brother, deeming him a disgrace to their family. He and his gang of royals then prepare to unleash a massive spell, but the magic gets out of control and explodes. Miraculously, Leorg survives and attempts to cast the deadly spell, Gerast, on Anos. But once the dust settles, Anos is perfectly fine. Anos then drops a truth bomb on Leorg. Origin magic doesn't work on the origin itself. Leorg, trying to proclaim himself as the true Demon King of Tyranny, is left speechless. Anos' response? How is talking about myself making light of my great deeds? Leorg, furious and humiliated, lashes out, only for Anos to start pondering the current era's fragile brotherly bonds. Deciding to teach the brothers a lesson, Anos revives Zeps and pits him against Leorg, challenging the two to prove their sibling bond. However, Leorg fails miserably and gets killed by his own brother's rage. Anos resurrects them again and comments on how pathetically weak their bond is, before dissolving the arena and revealing to everyone present that he is the true Demon King of Tyranny. The next day, Anos enters his new class and drops another one of his awful jokes that somehow no one laughs at. As he wonders why people are staring, Misha points out the badge on his chest, a cross, marking him as the ultimate misfit of the Academy. Hence the title, the Misfit of Demon King Academy. Back in the mythical age, at the towering demon castle Delsgade, 4 legendary beings gathered: the hero Canon, the Demon King Anos, the Great Spirit Reno, and the Goddess of Creation Militia. Anos, ever the self-sacrificing leader, came up with a radical plan to ensure peace. He would give up his own life to create 4 massive walls that would divide the world for 1,000 years, giving everyone a chance to rebuild in peace. Although reluctant, the other 3 agreed. In a dramatic moment, Canon pierced Anos with his holy sword, turning Anos' life force into a powerful magic spell. With a final promise to Canon, saying he'd become her friend if they met again. Anos vanished in a cataclysmic explosion, and the world was split into four. Fast forward 2,000 years, and in a cozy home, Isabella and Gusta look fondly at their newborn baby. But before they can even decide on a name, the infant shocks them by declaring, "My name is Anos Voldigoad." Talk about making an entrance. At the Demon King Academy, Misha reveals to Anos that no one's ever failed the aptitude test before, but Anos is baffled when his answers, all about himself, don't seem to add up. Using leaks to read Misha's mind, Anos discovers that everyone believes the name of the founder is Anos Voldigoad. What's going on here? As Misha continues explaining, a girl walks by and sneers at Anos' Misfit badge. Someone's got a chip on their shoulder. Soon after, the bell rings and their homeroom teacher, Amelia Lidowell, starts the class by selecting team leaders who can cast Gizeh. Anos confidently raises his hand, but Amelia smugly states that only students in white uniforms, purebloods, are eligible. Determined to prove his worth, Anos proposes a zect, a magical contract, against Amelia herself. If he can show that hybrids are just as powerful as purebloods, he'll become team leader. If not, he'll drop out. To everyone's shock, Anos points out a flaw in the Gizeh magic circle, casually redraws it, and doubles its power. Amelia's left with no choice but to eat her words as the class murmurs in disbelief. Amelia then calls on each team leader to introduce themselves. The sneering girl from earlier steps forward and announces herself as the Witch of Destruction, Sasha Necron. Misha quietly reveals that Sasha is her sister. When Anos asks why their uniforms differ, Misha explains that it's due to a complicated family decision. Undeterred, Anos introduces himself, Anos Voldigoad, the Demon King of Tyranny, and drops the bombshell that the name Anos Voldigoad is a complete fake. Chaos ensues, and the class splits up to follow their chosen leaders. Unsurprisingly, only Misha sticks with Anos, solidifying their newfound friendship. Sasha then swoops in, dropping venomous words, calling Misha a defective little junk doll with no life or soul. Ouch. Anos calmly shuts her down, saying that if she thinks a magical doll has no soul, then she clearly doesn't understand magic at all. In a fit of rage, Sasha unleashes her powerful magic eyes of destruction, obliterating the wall behind Anos, except he doesn't even flinch. In response, Anos activates his own magic eyes of destruction, leaving Sasha stunned and speechless. He then cheekily invites her to join his team, but she storms off, angrily insisting that she never considered Misha her sister. As Anos and Misha leave the academy, they bump into Sasha again. Not one to back down, she proposes a deal. If Anos and Misha can beat her team in the upcoming competition, she'll join their team. But if they lose, she'll claim Anos as her property. Confident as ever, Anos accepts. Predictably, Anos utterly crushes Sasha's team in the battle. Begrudgingly, Sasha joins his team, and in a show of friendship, or maybe defiance, Anos invites the sisters over for dinner at his house. The evening goes surprisingly well, and later, as Anos walks them home, Sasha surprises him with a bold move. She kisses him. Looks like things are heating up in more ways than one. As they head home, Misha and Sasha start teasing each other about their feelings for Anos. Sasha blushes furiously and denies having any interest, but secretly, she's relieved. It's not every day someone can look her straight in the eyes without being incinerated by her deadly magic eyes of destruction. She then recalls their past, telling Misha how she always felt connected to her and could look at her without fear. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Sasha apologizes for everything she's done, and Misha, being the sweetheart she is, immediately forgives her. Meanwhile, Anos Necron, one of the 7 elder demon emperors personally created by Anos from his own blood, talk about family ties, takes charge of the great magic lesson. But there's a problem. He doesn't recognize Anos at all. Anos, never one to be ignored, casually sends Anos back in time to restore his memories. However, something's seriously off. It turns out that someone has actually tampered with the past, rewriting history itself. No wonder everyone believes the Demon King is some fake name, Anos Voldigoad. Unsure of what to believe, Anos decides to remain neutral for now. After all, Anos has the power to alter history too, and trust doesn't come easy when you're dealing with time-warping demons. For the next exam, students are tasked with retrieving magic items from the dungeon. Anos being, well, Anos, aims straight for the toughest item at the deepest level, a legendary scepter. He reaches it in record time, effortlessly navigating the dungeon's labyrinthine paths. After securing the scepter, Anos generously offers Misha a gift for Sasha's upcoming birthday, the ultra-rare Phoenix robe, one of his personal items. But things take a dark turn when Sasha suddenly stabs Misha out of nowhere. She coldly reveals that she's been pretending to be their ally this whole time, waiting for the perfect moment to betray them. With a twisted smile, Sasha declares that if Anos so much as lays a finger on her, a curse will force the knife deeper into Misha's body. Anos barely blinks and calmly catches Sasha mid-flight, revealing that he healed Misha the instant he walked into the room and replaced her with an illusion. Talk about a trump card. Anos then challenges Sasha, pointing out that if she truly hated Misha as much as she claimed, her magic eyes of destruction would have flared up with intense emotion. But they didn't, proving that her betrayal is a big, fat lie. Despite Anos' accusations, at Misha's gentle request, he lets Sasha go. She flees the scene, clutching both the robe and the scepter. With Sasha gone, Misha turns to Anos and drops a bombshell. She's not really who he thinks she is. When she and Sasha turn 15, Misha will cease to exist altogether. She's not a real person, just a temporary existence that's bound to fade away. When Sasha was still a fetus, Ivis, one of Anos' own creations, split her into two separate beings. The plan? To have them fuse back into a single, ultra-powerful demon once they turned 15. So all this time, Sasha and Misha weren't really sisters. They were just two halves of one whole. Anos, being the ever-unstoppable problem solver, catches up to Sasha, who reveals her true intentions. Everything she's done, every cruel word, every cold shoulder, was to protect Misha. Sasha even created a spell that would allow Misha to live on while she herself vanished forever. For the spell to work, though, Misha has to reject her. That's why Sasha's always acted like she despises her. But Misha, ever the kind-hearted one, refuses to let Sasha go, and they tearfully await the moment when Misha will disappear forever. But Anos isn't having any of this tragic goodbye nonsense. He tells them there's a way they can both survive. If he sends them back in time, they can fuse their current half-sources with their half-sources from when they were still unborn fetuses. That way, they'll be born as complete beings, true twin sisters, each with her own unique source. Just as hope fills the air, Ivis crashes through the roof like a deranged party crasher and stabs Anos out of nowhere. He reveals his sinister plan. He wants to use Sasha and Misha's fused body to host the real reincarnated Demon King. Nice try, Ivis, but you've forgotten who you're dealing with. Unfazed by the sword sticking out of him, Anos casually grabs the demon's sword and hurls it straight into Ivis, pinning him down like a fly on a board. He's about to activate his time travel spell, Revive, when another unwelcome guest shows up, Hugo Laraviaz, the Keeper of Time. Hugo merges with Ivis, and the two form a powerful, terrifying entity. They even manage to kill Anos. But you can't keep the Demon King down that easily. Anos pops right back up, thanks to his spell Ingle, and laughs in their faces, proclaiming that he's got enough power to defy even a god. With the twins safely sent back to fuse with their past selves, Anos decides it's time to go all out. He summons his legendary sword Venus de Noa, and with a single swing, obliterates Ivis entirely. After the dust settles, he brings Ivis back to life, because he's just that generous, and discovers that someone has implanted a third, unknown source within him. Restoring all of Ivis' unaltered memories, Anos realizes that Ivis was being manipulated by an agent of Avus Dilhevia, the imposter claiming to be the true Demon King. Meanwhile, Sasha and Misha return, now as fully independent sisters, each with her own separate source. With the day saved and Misha's future secured, Anos decides to focus on his next big task, returning the scepter he borrowed from the dungeon to ace the exam. After all, even Demon Kings need perfect scores. 2,000 years ago, Anos and his loyal subordinates stormed the mystical Great Spirit Forest of Harthern on a mission to locate the elusive Great Spirit Reno. Anos' right-hand man, Shin Reglia, wasn't there to play around. He took down the mighty Great Water Spirit Lignan in one blow, securing Lignan's permission to reincarnate. With a smirk, Shin turned to Anos, claiming his victory in their little bet. But just as things were wrapping up, the hero cannon appeared, and Anos sent Shin off to find Reno while he decided to take on Cannon himself, just like old times. Flash forward to the present day at the Demon King Academy, where Buzz is building about a new transfer student, someone renowned for his unmatched sword skills. Amidst the excitement, Anos thwarts yet another petty attempt by his teacher, Emilia, to sabotage his grades. When the missing scepter from the dungeon exam suddenly reappears in Anos' hand, the teacher has no choice but to award him the points. But Misa Iliaroagu, one of Anos' classmates, isn't going to let it go quietly. She boldly calls Emilia out, pointing out that if Anos were a true royal, she would have handled it differently. Oops. This prompts Emilia to remind everyone that Unitarian campaigns, movements advocating for equality between royals and hybrids, are strictly banned on school grounds. After class, Misa meets up with Anos to talk about the Unitarians, a group fighting for a fair society where hybrids aren't treated like second-class citizens. Anos is intrigued when he learns that one of his elder demon emperors, Melhace Baran, is involved with the movement. Misa then shares a personal revelation. She's half demon, half spirit. Her mother died shortly after she was born, and she's never met her father. She suspects he's a royal who could face disgrace for having a hybrid child. Yet, on her 10th birthday, he managed to send her half a demon sword, symbolizing that it would only become whole when royals and hybrids are united. Touched by her story, Anos offers to let Misa and her Unitarian friends join his team, if they can prove themselves worthy. Soon after, the Academy kicks off its demon sword lessons, and all eyes are on Anos and the new transfer student, Lei Glanzudlii. They're the only ones strong enough to wield the powerful demon swords effortlessly. Lei, undeterred by his royal status and Emilia's protests, asks to join Anos' team. But Anos isn't making it that easy. He challenges Lei and Misa to a team battle against him, setting the stage for an epic clash. During the exam, Misha and Sasha crush Misa and the Anos fan union, but the real showdown is between Anos and Lei. Anos goes up against Lei using just a tree branch. Yep, a tree branch, and still holds his own. Lei's instincts kick in, and he suddenly remembers dueling Anos before. Anos, now convinced that Lei is the reincarnation of his old right-hand man Shin, decides to end the battle and claims victory. But as Lei gets back on his feet, he promises to defeat Anos in their next duel, reigniting the rivalry that transcends even time itself. After their duel, Anos extends an invitation to Lei and Misa for a cozy dinner at his home, alongside Sasha and Misha. His parents, as always, turn the evening into a grand celebration for Anos' victory, making it almost feel like a family reunion. During dinner, Isabella and Gusta excitedly share the story of Anos' unique birth and explain why they support him no matter what. Meanwhile, Lei can't help but keep an eye on Misa, worried about her well-being since half-spirit, half-demons tend to have shorter lifespans. The following day at the Academy, the announcement everyone's been waiting for is made. Anos and Lei are the official competitors for the prestigious Magic Sword Tournament. Anos, however, isn't buying the hype and suspects some shady motives behind this setup. Later, he meets up with Melhace Baran, one of the 7 elder demon emperors, who confesses that although his memories have been tampered with, he still believes Anos is the true demon king of tyranny. He even recalls fleeing to the Great Spirit Forest but is unable to return to Dilhade due to the magical walls. Something sinister is definitely afoot. In gratitude for Misha making his favorite meal for dinner, Anos decides to treat her to a fun day out. They start by creating some magical models before heading to a cat cafe. Yes, a cat cafe. But it's not just any ordinary cafe. There, they encounter Ivis, disguised as one of the cats. He drops some serious intel. Someone even higher up than Melhace is actually pulling the strings within the Unitarians. On the day of the tournament, Ivis reveals more crucial details, prompting Anos to consider sitting this one out. But just as he's about to make his decision, Anos sees how much faith his parents have in him. Not wanting to let them down, he changes his mind and steps back into the arena. His opponent? None other than Krut Ludowell, the reigning champion of the tournament. With a confident grin, Anos enters the ring, ready to show everyone that the so-called Misfit is about to turn the entire tournament upside down. Anos effortlessly takes down Krut Ludowell in the tournament, which infuriates his sister, Emilia. Meanwhile, Lay wins his own match, though it's revealed he's tangled up with a royalist organization. Backstage, Anos senses something is off with Lay and discovers he's bound by a contractual demon sword, holding him as a pawn in the royalist game. After winning his next match, Anos gives his mother his sword for safekeeping, then heads with Misa to Lognorth Magic Hospital. There, they meet Sheila Gransley, Lay's adoptive mother, who suffers from a rare spirit disease. Sheila shares Lay's troubled past and confirms that the royalists are controlling him. To help her, Anos invents a new healing spell, and Misa bravely volunteers to lend her life force for the spell. Meanwhile, Emilia sneaks up on Isabella and the Anos fan union, attempting to steal Anos' sword to disqualify him. She unleashes Galzora on them, but the fan union fiercely defends Isabella, suffering burns in the process. When Anos arrives, he's furious. Immobilizing Emilia, he uses Int to heal his mother and each loyal fangirl, thanking them by name for their devotion and the courage they showed in protecting his family. To settle the score, he teleports Emilia to the arena and, with a swift sword thrust, forces her to acknowledge him as the true demon king of tyranny. After she grovels in humiliation, he strikes her down. But that's not all. He revives her as a hybrid using Azub, ensuring she'll always experience life as a hybrid each time she's reborn, to truly understand the people she scorns. Back at the hospital, Lay, concerned for Misa, gently stops her from depleting her life force further. He shares a heartfelt conversation with Sheila, who encourages him to live as he chooses. Before Anos returns, Lay makes a quiet exit. The following day, it's finally time for the tournament finals, Anos versus Lay. Sparks are about to fly as these two powerhouse contenders step into the ring, ready to go head-to-head. Just before the duel, Anos learns of two sinister rules. If Lay loses, the contractual demon sword will destroy his source. If the spirit drain ring loses its flow of magic, Sheila's health will deteriorate. But despite the threat, Lay fights with determination, refusing to let the royalists' blackmail sway him, allowing the duel with Anos to go all out. In the end, Anos emerges as the victor. After the match, Melhace steps forward, revealing he masterminded the entire tournament and traps the stage within another dimension. He summons the fearsome elder demon emperors Gaos and Idol to face Anos, but Lay quickly intervenes, beheading both emperors in one strike. It turns out Lay survived Anos' final blow, as Anos had stealthily destroyed the contractual demon sword's device, freeing him from its hold. However, Melhace reveals his trump card. Sheila is his hostage, prompting Lay to dive into another dimension to save her. Melhace smugly traps Anos and Lay in Bino Yevon, his dimensional prison, to separate them. Anos, forced to expend more power to defend both himself and Lay, seems to be reaching his limits. As Melhace taunts them, Lay uses his mother's spirit sword form to pierce through Bino Yevon, even landing a scratch on Melhace's cheek. Suddenly, Anos appears right behind Melhace, having tracked him by the scratch. Melhace desperately retreats and detonates a Bino Yevon silo around Anos, only to be stunned when Anos emerges unharmed. Anos then summons Venus Denoa, explaining that after reincarnating, he'd only had access to a fraction of his magic. But the spirit drain ring and Bino Yevon triggered the return of his source of destruction, restoring his full power. With Venus Denoa's reality-bending force, Anos strikes. Melhace dodges, but to his horror, his legs are sliced clean off, as Venus Denoa negates the very logic of dodging. Anos then pierces Melhace's skull, freeing him from the device controlling him. Melhace, now regaining his senses, explains how he was corrupted and summons the elder demon emperors whom Lay had killed. Anos cleanses their sources of outside influence, preparing to resurrect them and extract information about Avus Dilhevia. But before he can, a mysterious figure breaks into the dimensional prison and destroys the corrupted sources, vanishing without a trace. Once the figure is gone, Anos instructs Melhace to undo the dimensional prison and bring everyone back to the real world. He heals Lei and resurrects Sheila, who, in her true form as a spirit sword, reunites with Lei in an emotional embrace. Back at the academy, Sasha presents Anos with a commemorative sword for his victory and plants a kiss on each of his cheeks, sealing the moment with a smile. 2,000 years ago, Hero Canon stood on high alert as Demon King Anos appeared at the gates of Garadite's capital. Canon was ready to defend his city from an invasion, but to his surprise, Anos only wanted to talk. Anos proposed peace, claiming demons also sought an end to the conflict. Yet, before any accord could be made, a furious Jirga, a human warrior fueled by vengeance, attacked. Despite Anos's quick barrier defense, Jirga furiously tried to break through, accusing Anos of lying and swearing to avenge his fallen kin. But Jirga's strength wasn't enough. He was mortally wounded by Anos. With a final offer for Canon to meet him at Castle Delsgade if he wished to discuss peace, Anos teleported away. Jirga, barely hanging on, urged Canon to remember that coexistence with demons was impossible, insisting he'd fight to his last breath. Fast forward to the present day. Anos, Misha, and Sasha meet up at the academy, soon joined by Lei and Misa. In their classroom, Mino Historia introduces herself as the temporary homeroom teacher and announces an upcoming inter-academy exchange with Azesian's Hero Academy, Arklaniska, where they'll meet actual heroes. Curious about the heroes, Anos shares his personal knowledge with the class, adding a little sass to the history lesson. After class, Anos takes the squad under his wing, tutoring them in advanced magic to prepare for their mission. That evening, Anos receives a report from Melhace about strange happenings and suspicious behaviors at the Hero Academy. As a final prep, Anos invites Lei to explore his legendary treasure vault, where Lei picks the unique sword Sikshesta, intrigued by its power and Anos's tales. When the day of the event arrives, Mino, speaking through an enchanted owl, explains they'll need to find their own way to the Hero Academy. Unfazed, Anos teleports himself and the group straight there, skipping the hassle. With extra time to explore, Anos and Misha head to the Academy Library, where they meet third-year student Eleanor Bianca. Eleanor shares some eyebrow-raising facts, claiming that Hero Canon himself erected the walls dividing the realms and that Avus Dilhevia is the true demon lord. Anos, unfazed, raises an eyebrow, especially when she mentions an elite hero squad called the Jirga Canon. Their conversation is cut short as members of Jirga Canon, Ledriano Canon Azesian and Laos Canon Jilfer, appear. Laos, not one for polite introductions, immediately lunges at Anos, who casually deflects his attacks, leaving Laos fuming. Ledriano steps in, attempting to keep the peace, for now. Outside, Eleanor drops a bombshell. Hero Canon was betrayed and killed by a human 2,000 years ago. Anos raises an eyebrow, already sensing that the Hero Academy's version of history is far from the full story. Mino greets a new group of students, one of whom spots Anos and his friends, surprised they'd arrived before everyone else. Among the group is Eleanor, who catches Misha's attention with her rather somber expression. But before long, third-year Rives storms over, accusing Anos of cheating. Anos, unbothered, brushes it off, dismissing Rives' hostility like it's yesterday's news. Later, during a joint assembly with the Demon King Academy and Hero Academy, students watch a demonstration where a representative from each academy showcases their spellcasting skills. Ledriano, representing the Hero Academy, flawlessly performs his magic, while Rives, the Demon King Academy's pick, struggles, until Anos exposes the truth. Ledriano had cheated, using spell blockers to inhibit Rives' magic. Anos, of course, neutralizes the interference, letting Rives' spell go off in full force. Then, for good measure, he casts Lihid to summon a holy sword, sending a powerful signal that he's onto the Hero Academy's tricks. Rives, however, doesn't look grateful, In fact, he's glaring at Anos with a sour expression, fanning the flames between the two academies. That evening, Anos receives a report from Ivis, revealing that Hero Cannon wasn't actually killed by a human. Adding to the mystery, Ivis mentions a legend circulating at the Hero Academy. Darkness will someday swallow Azesian, but their prayers will summon a hero bearing Evan's mana, destined to purify the world. It sounds like a not-so-subtle prophecy targeting the reincarnated Demon King, Anos himself. Just as Anos and Ivis are about to dig deeper, Misha and Sasha drop by to see if he's free for a stroll. In the heart of the city, they find a festival celebrating the hero Jirga. Anos spots Lei showing off his archery skills while Misa watches from afar, but Sasha stops Anos from approaching, saying they should let the two have some space. Lei and Misa share a heartfelt talk about the Hero Academy's uneasy treatment of Demon King Academy students, and after winning an archery game, Lei chooses a special necklace as his prize, gifting it to Misa with a shy smile. The next day, the fan union notices Misa's new necklace and eagerly presses her to reveal who gave it to her, which she coyly avoids. But when Anos's group catches up, Anos recounts the romantic lore of the Misfit necklace, explaining it's a symbol of eternal connection. When the fan union learns Lei was behind the gift, they tease him about when he plans to marry Misa, leaving her thoroughly flustered. At Lake Simai, the students from both academies gather for the inter-academy exams, where Diego announces that the lake itself is the arena. Although Anos volunteers his team and fan union for the challenge, Rivest's group is chosen instead. As Rivest's group begins casting a spell to investigate the lake, Mino fills Anos in on Rivest's troubled past and his struggles at the academy. However, Rivest's group quickly realizes their magic is mysteriously failing, leaving them vulnerable to attacks from Hero Academy students. Anos, observing from afar, catches on. The Hero Academy is using holy water to weaken Demon King magic. He shares this with Mino, who's outraged but restrained by Anos, who opts to handle things his way. With a surge of magic, he pulls Rivest and his allies from the lake, but when Mino tries to heal them, she finds her magic blocked by a mysterious stigma. Diego blames Mino's so-called incompetence, while Anos offers Rivest support, praising his resilience, which softens Rivest enough to reveal the Hero Academy's cheating. With round 1 over, the second round pits Anos and his team against the Hero Academy's chosen champions, Heina, Rouse, and Ledriano. Heina taunts Anos, jokingly suggesting they drain the lake if it's a problem. Never one to miss an opportunity, Anos takes the challenge literally and drains the lake in an instant, leaving the heroes gawking. Diego tries to cancel the match, but the hero students and Mino insist on continuing. Ledriano, looking smug, assures them that the Hero Academy still has an ace up their sleeve, a mysterious that they're confident will tip the scales. The second round of the Inter-Academy exam kicks off, and Anos wastes no time, casting Gizeh, while the Hero Academy team counters with Asla. But something eerie slips into the minds of the hero students, whispering a dark command. Kill the demons. Anos quickly summons a massive black hole, launching it toward the hero team, but it's deflected by a powerful barrier and destroyed by a young girl wielding a radiant sword. Realizing the barrier could be trouble, Misha proposes creating a demon castle inside it to cancel its effects. She estimates it'll take 3 minutes to construct, and Anos vows to guard her in the meantime. They teleport into the barrier, and as Misha begins feeling its effects, Anos casts a recovery spell to protect her. With no time to waste, Misha casts Iris, and an ominous castle begins to rise around them. Ledriano, Heina, Rouse, and the mysterious young girl approach Anos, and Ledriano formally introduces her as Zeshia Canon Ijazica, wielder of the Holy Sword of Light and Hail. The heroes hurl anti-barrier chains toward Misha, but Anos intercepts and breaks them with Gerast, causing an explosion that injures the heroes. Zeshia charges at Anos, but he deflects her effortlessly. Realizing these heroes aren't the source of the barrier's power, Misha signals that her castle is complete. Elsewhere, Sasha confronts Rouse and swiftly defeats him, cleverly altering his school badge with poison magic. Meanwhile, Lei faces off against Heina, who smugly believes he's trapped Lei in an immobilizing barrier. But Lei shatters Heine's expectations and his left arm. Heine regenerates a new one but remains cocky until Lei wields his Zelo sword, breaking free and winning the fight. As a final act, Lei leaves Heine with only a single stigma as a parting gift. Back with Anos, he faces off with Ledriano, quickly calling out his fake injuries. Amused, Ledriano summons his sword, Barament, and Zeshia launches another attack on Anos, putting up a spirited fight. Yet, despite her best efforts, Anos overpowers her. Realizing they're cornered, Ledriano and Zeshia join forces, casting the mighty ASC spell, drawing energy from their peers and the people of Garadite. But Anos has a counter, his own ASC spell, supercharged by the heartfelt song of the Anos Fan Union. Overwhelmed by Anos' power, the heroes are further haunted by a sinister voice in their minds, chanting, "Kill the demon king of tyranny." Misha approaches Anos, noting the voice's intense hatred. Refusing to back down, Ledriano readies himself for another clash, and Zeshia attempts a dangerous sacrificial spell called Govel. Before she can complete it, Anos intercepts, creating a mental link with Eleanor, who requests he visit the shrine, claiming only she can stop Zeshia. Following Anos' request, Misha heads to the shrine but is ambushed by Diego, who casts a malicious spell that weakens her before stabbing her with his enhanced sword. He attacks mercilessly, disregarding the rules of the exam, until Anos arrives and impales him, then encloses Misha in a protective barrier, healing her wounds. Anos interrogates Diego, painfully extracting information about his and the Hero Academy's motives, even killing and reviving him to emphasize his point. Realizing Diego was behind the ominous voice, Anos transforms him into a monstrous reflection of his true, twisted self. Diego desperately tries to rally his students against the Demon King Academy students, but Anos has already safeguarded them against such manipulation. With one final lesson on the true ideals of hero canon, Anos pulls Diego's source orb from his chest and crushes it, ending him once and for all. With Misha in his arms, Anos ventures into the temple's depths, where he finds Eleanor encased in a radiant orb. When Anos questions her identity, she responds simply, "I am magic." Eleanor unveils a shocking truth to Anos. She isn't just any magic user. She was born from a taboo magic spell that transformed her into a living, breathing spell, a humanoid embodiment of magic itself. With Misha cradled in his arms, Anos considers her words, but is more focused on canceling the dangerous Gavual spell that Diego cast on Jirga Cannon. Eleanor agrees to help in exchange for her freedom, and, once released, she promptly dispels Gavual. With her mission complete, Eleanor goes deeper into the secrets of the Hero Academy. She reveals that the Academy was built on a dark foundation of human cloning, with her as the creator. 2,000 years ago, this twisted vision was set in motion by none other than Jirga, who founded the Academy to preserve his hatred for demons, even shaping his essence into two powerful spells bent on demon destruction. Though ASC was meant to channel Canon's spirit, it was actually a vessel for Jirga's obsessive thirst for revenge. Canon had tried to talk Jirga out of this grim path, but Jirga turned on him, killing Canon because he believed that only humans could truly vanquish the Demon King. Betrayed and tired of humanity, Canon never revived. Intrigued, Anos asks Eleanor about Jirga's dual spell legacy. The first spell was ASC, and the second, Anos suspects, is Eleanor herself, a spell-driven entity bound to create clones for endless combat. Eleanor confirms his theory and, in a somber tone, asks Anos to end her existence. But her Zeshia clones interrupt, pleading for their mother's life. Amused and touched, Anos promises to save both Eleanor and all the clones. Just then, Diego storms in with a squad of knights, intent on mayhem. Eleanor confirms Diego is a clone who'll keep regenerating as long as she exists. But before he can act, 3 of the 7 demon elders, Medoin, Zoro, and Eldora, appear, joined by Avuz Dilhevia. Avuz snatches the legendary sword, Evan's Mana, as Medoin creates a black hole that swallows Diego and his knights. Anos faces Avuz, demanding answers about his true identity. Avuz introduces himself with a flourish before teleporting away, leaving a swirl of chaos in his wake. Soon, Diego's announcement spreads across the land. The Demon King has returned, wielding Evan's mana, and declares war on humanity. Meanwhile, on the demon side, Medowin, Zoro, Eldora, and Avuz rally their forces, announcing a counterstrike against the humans. Back at the academy, Anos gathers his allies as Melhace and the other demon elders brief him on the impending battle. Though Anos initially wants to handle things alone, his friends insist on fighting alongside him. With a reluctant smile, Anos accepts and prepares them for battle the next day. That afternoon, Misa and Lei share a heartfelt moment, with Misa worried about Lei's survival in the fight. Lei promises her he'll return and takes half of her necklace as a token of his vow. The following day, Anos rallies his troops, instructing them not to die and to avoid killing, calling this trivial war effort hardly worth a life. Misha and Sasha lead a charge against the Dilhade forces in the west, while Lei and Misa cover the east, with the Fan Union providing rear support. Meanwhile, Anos and the Demon Elders assault the enemy's stronghold, where Avuz and his elders await. Though Melhace's team subdues the other elders, Avuz and the manipulated sources vanish, eluding capture. Finally, Anos confronts Avuz, who unveils a shocking twist. Avuz is Canon himself. As Avuz removes his mask, Anos realizes that Lei was Canon's true reincarnation all along, using his 6 sources to manipulate his elders and tricking Anos into believing he was Shin's reincarnation. When Anos demands to know why, Lei, aka Canon, responds, "Humans were just too weak to protect themselves." 2,000 years ago, after being betrayed and murdered by one of Jirga's followers, Lei caught wind of Jirga's plan to kill Anos upon his revival as the Demon King. Determined to thwart this fate, Lei used the power of the legendary sword, Evan's mana, to alter history bit by bit, creating the persona of Demon Lord Avuz Dilhevia. His plan? To have Avuz defeated by humans, hoping it would dissolve the deep-seated hatred Jirga had spread. Knowing he couldn't talk Lei out of his mission, Anos goads him into a showdown by holding Lei's precious necklace as collateral. An epic clash begins, with Anos obliterating 6 of Lei's 7 sources in mere minutes. Lei, however, refuses to surrender, giving every ounce of his strength. In a climactic twist, Lei manages to shatter Anos' source, portraying himself as Avuz, and orders his troops to retreat and await his return. Secretly, Anos slips Lei's necklace back to him as Lei withdraws Evan's mana from Anos, causing the blade to crumble to dust. With this final act, Lei declares the Demon Lord dead. But the chaos doesn't end there. Enraged, Diego demands the Zeshia clones annihilate the demons through self-destruction. Eleanor teleports in, pleading with Diego to call off his order, but he spirals into a furious rant. Suddenly, a massive magic circle appears in the sky, revealing Jirga himself, reborn in all his malevolent glory. Jirga is outraged at Canon, now Lei, for siding with demons and defeating the Demon King. Ready to end it all, Misha and Sasha combine their powers, thanks to Ancestor Ivis' influence, to launch a full-scale attack on Jirga. He retaliates by commanding the Zeshias to self-destruct, but Lei, Misa, Eleanor, and the fusion-powered Necron sisters intercept just in time. Before Jirga can follow through, Anos reappears, dispelling the Zeshias with a grand agromant spell. Jirga, instead of despairing, is thrilled, absorbing the hopes of his subjects and transforming into a colossal golden knight in armor. Though Jirga's newfound power is overwhelming, Anos counters by drawing energy from his Fan Union song. With their combined forces, Anos and Lei deliver the final blow, finally defeating Jirga. Afterward, Anos binds Eleanor's source to himself, allowing her to retain her power and stay connected to her Zeshia creations. When they return to Dilhade, Demon Lord Elio Ludwell and the Demon King Army kneel, acknowledging Anos as their true and eternal ancestor. Later, Anos brings Misha, Sasha, and Eleanor home, where his parents are overjoyed and completely baffled, especially when they assume Eleanor is Anos' third wife with 10,000 children.